My name is Erin. I'm 27 years old. And according to my father, I'm the biggest disappointment this family has ever seen. At least, that's what he said, right into a microphone at my younger brother's college graduation, in front of everyone. But we'll get there. First, you should know, I wasn't always the shame. At one point, I was the pride. I was the first in my family to go to college, scholarship student, dean's list, double major in psychology and education. I thought I'd paved the way. I thought they'd be proud. But pride is fragile in a family obsessed with image. And when my life took a turn, even if it was for the better, they stopped seeing me, stopped hearing me, stopped believing in me. I used to think it was just my imagination, that maybe I was too sensitive. But the truth doesn't lie forever. And on the day of my brother's graduation, the truth walked out onto the stage in heels and a graduation gown. Let me back up. My parents have always worshipped appearances. Church every Sunday, matching outfits for family photos, big smiles for Facebook posts. But inside the house, cold silence if you ever fell short. I was quiet, bookish, didn't go to parties, didn't bring home boyfriends or drama. But I also didn't go to med school like they wanted. I chose education. My mom called it a hobby degree. My dad said, teaching is for people who couldn't do anything else. So no matter how many honors I racked up, I was never quite enough. Then came Daniel, my younger brother. Star athlete, mediocre student, but charming. So charming that my parents would beam with pride at C+ report cards just because his teachers said he was fun to have in class. He failed math twice in high school, but still got a car before me. He skipped college for 2 years to find himself in Bali, and they paid for it. When he finally enrolled in a business program, they acted like he was the second coming of Steve Jobs. Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs, studying for my master's in curriculum design, and barely getting a text back when I sent family updates. So when his graduation day came, I didn't expect much. I showed up quietly, sat alone near the back, wore a soft gray dress, and carried a congratulatory card I'd bought 2 months ago. But apparently, even my silence was too loud. Because when my dad was asked to say a few words as a guest parent, one of those surprise stage moments, he leaned into the mic, grinned, and said, "Proud to be here today for my son. He's our golden boy. Unlike, well, our eldest, the one who keeps switching careers like socks." Laughter, a few gasps. And me? I just sat there, card still in my lap, hands shaking. What he didn't know was that the dean, standing a few feet away, had something in her hand. Something with my name on it. Something that would rewrite every word he just said. I didn't cry. Not even when the words left my dad's mouth like poisoned sugar. I just sat there, blinking. Like, maybe if I stayed still enough, I'd disappear. But I didn't. And the dean? Tane, she didn't either. She glanced at me from the edge of the stage. A slow, knowing look. And then she nodded. Just once, like we had an agreement. Let me tell you something my family didn't know. While they were busy praising Daniel for getting through 4 years of college in 5, I had been earning my second degree quietly. A master's in curriculum design and educational leadership. Night classes. Weekend modules. Online lectures after 12-hour shifts. All while working as a high school counselor full-time. No one in my family had asked where I'd been lately. No one noticed the student portal open on my laptop at Thanksgiving, or the graduation application email I had smiled at while doing dishes on Christmas Eve. They never noticed because they weren't looking. I didn't apply to walk the stage. I didn't order a cap and gown. Honestly, I didn't want to make a scene. I just wanted to be there for Daniel, give him the card, smile politely, disappear again. But life had other plans. The dean approached me quietly. While the crowd clapped for the next batch of graduates, she leaned down and whispered, "Come with me, it's time." I hesitated. "What? Time for what?" She smiled. "You've earned it." I didn't know what to say, but my feet moved before my brain could argue. Backstage was quiet, cool, like stepping into a different reality. The dean handed me a folder. My name, embossed in silver. Inside? My master's diploma, signed. Official, dated 2 weeks ago. "This is yours," she said, "and you've done more than earn it. You've inspired 3 of our faculty members with your thesis." I stared at the words on the page, all the late nights, the quiet panic, the doubt. It was real now, all of it. That's when she asked me something that made my heart skip. "Would you like to walk the stage?" I looked at her, stunned. I didn't sign up for the ceremony. She smiled again. "Sometimes people like you don't think they deserve to be seen. But I think today is the perfect day to change that." I was shaking, not with fear, but with something I hadn't felt in years. Worth. And just as I was about to answer, a volunteer appeared holding a spare gown in my size. Everything fit, like it had been waiting for me. Back outside, the ceremony was still going. My dad sat front row. Daniel had just taken a selfie with the chancellor. My mom was already holding her phone up for more pictures. And then the dean walked back onto the stage, cleared her throat, and said the words I will never forget. "We have one final surprise graduate joining us today, a returning student, a dual degree holder, and an academic leader. Please welcome Erin Blake, Master of Curriculum Design and Educational Leadership." Heads turned, phones froze. My father's face dropped, and I walked across that stage, straight past the man who called me the family shame, and into the arms of everything I had built. The lights were blinding, not in the theatrical sense. I mean literally blinding. Those stage lights were hot, white, and aimed dead at me. But I didn't squint. I didn't flinch. I walked forward, step by step, steady as steel. Not because I was confident, but because I had nothing left to fear. The applause started slowly, polite at first, then louder, genuine. Strangers clapped for me. Professors I'd never met stood up. Students I didn't know looked at me like I was someone worth clapping for. But not my family. Not my mom, not my dad. They sat frozen, like statues carved out of embarrassment and disbelief. My brother turned to my father and whispered something, but Dad didn't look away from the stage. He just stared, jaw locked, eyes dark. I reached the podium, shook the dean's hand, and she whispered, "I'm proud of you." That's when it hit me. Not the tears, but the weight. All the years I spent trying to be seen, trying to be enough, trying to be someone, all of it was behind me now, because I was already there, at the summit, and no one could pretend I didn't belong. I stepped down with my diploma in hand, walked past the same row where my father had made his little speech. He turned toward me, but I didn't stop, didn't nod, didn't blink. I took my seat near the faculty section. Alone. And yet I had never felt less alone in my life. The ceremony ended 20 minutes later. Crowds poured out. Families reunited. Bouquets were exchanged. Photos snapped in every direction. I stayed where I was, just watching. And then I saw them. My family, grouped together under a campus tree. My mom whispering furiously. My dad pacing. Daniel, looking like he'd just found out the earth was flat. They hadn't moved toward me, not one of them. But I wasn't surprised, because for once, I had done something they couldn't ignore, and couldn't claim credit for. I was no longer the footnote. I was the headline. And then I saw someone walking toward me. Not them. Someone else. Older woman. Short gray hair, bright red coat. She smiled warmly. "Erin?" she asked. "Yes? I'm Dr. Rivera, your thesis reviewer." Oh wow, I didn't expect. She cut me off with a hug. "You changed my view on how we approach learning disabilities in public education. That's not just a degree in your hand, that's a future." I didn't cry, but my throat tightened. Not from pain, from validation. Behind her, I finally saw my mother breaking from the group, walking toward me, slowly, controlled, clutching her designer purse like it was a shield. She stopped a few feet away and said, Well, that was dramatic. I looked at her, really looked. And for the first time, I didn't shrink. Dramatic? I said. No, Mom, that was history. My mom's lips curled into a half smile, the kind people give when they don't know whether to apologize or pretend nothing happened. Well, she said again, smoothing her blouse, I suppose you could have told us. I blinked. You mean like how Dad told the entire crowd I was the family embarrassment? She flinched, just for a second. Then sighed. You always take things so personally. I stared at her, still in my gown, diploma still in my hand, still standing in the same spot where strangers had applauded, and my own family sat stiff as salt statues. I earned a master's degree in silence, I said, and you still found a way to make it about how you feel. Her eyes darted past me, toward the crowds. We're not doing this here, she whispered. But I wasn't whispering anymore. Not for them. Not today. She opened her mouth to speak again, but Daniel finally walked over. He looked shell-shocked, like he'd seen a ghost. Or worse, like he'd seen a sibling he never really knew. You got a second degree? He asked. I nodded. His voice was small. I didn't even know you were still in school. Because you never asked, I replied. He looked down. I could almost see the wheels turning. For a brief moment, I saw something in him I hadn't seen in years. Regret? Guilt? Respect? But then Dad came over. You made your point, he said. No hello, no congratulations. Just that. You embarrassed the whole family. I laughed, a soft, bitter kind of laugh. You stood on stage and called me a joke. I walked across the same stage with a master's degree, and I embarrassed you? His face darkened. People were watching now. He hated being watched. Let's go, he said to the others. Now. He turned to Daniel. But Daniel hesitated. He looked at me. Then back at Dad. Then at Mom. His voice broke the silence. Actually, I want to get a picture with Aaron first. My mom's head snapped toward him. My dad muttered something under his breath, but Daniel walked up to me anyway, took out his phone, held it out. Can we? Just one photo? I nodded. We stood side by side, awkward but honest. Click. For the first time, we looked like siblings. Not competition, not contrast, just two people, one who had been handed the spotlight and one who built her own from scratch. Later that day, I checked his social media. He'd posted the photo. Caption. Turns out I'm not the only graduate in the family. Proud of you, Aaron. But you know what? It didn't get reposted by my parents. Didn't make it to the family group chat. Didn't earn the little love this comments from my aunts. Because acknowledgement was never free in our family, it always came with conditions. And I had broken every one of them. But what they didn't realize is that some of us were never meant to be background characters. Some of us were just waiting for the right scene. After the ceremony, I went home alone. No dinner, no invitations, no celebration dinner at Dad's favorite overpriced steakhouse. That was reserved for Daniel, of course. And honestly, I was fine with it. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was missing out. Because I had something they didn't. Peace. I changed out of the gown, hung it gently in the back of my closet, right beside the old blazer I wore to my first teaching interview, sat down on my couch, and opened my laptop. There it was, an unread email, subject line, Department Commendation, Final Review. I clicked. Inside was a message from the dean. Aaron, your research on equity in curriculum development is being submitted to the Regional Board for publication recommendation. This is a major step toward national education policy recognition. We're proud to have your name attached to our institution. I sat back, the email glowed on my screen, and I didn't forward it to a single soul in my family. That was a new feeling, accomplishment with no craving for validation. It felt powerful. But power always comes with a storm. 3 days after graduation, Daniel showed up at my apartment, unannounced, holding a grocery bag full of soda and snacks like we were 10 again. I thought we could hang out, he said awkwardly. I figured you might want company. I let him in. We sat, ate chips, watched some reality TV. It was weird, but nice. Halfway through an episode, he blurted out, "I've read the email." I froze. "What email?" He pulled out his phone, opened a screenshot. It was the commendation, the one the dean had sent, the one I hadn't forwarded. "How did you?" He looked sheepish. "Dad left his iPad open. He was snooping through your graduation emails." I blinked. "Wait, Dad got that email?" Daniel nodded. "He called the dean's office pretending to be you, asked if you were really graduating. I guess they thought it was weird and CC'd both of you on the reply. He didn't think I'd notice." My stomach twisted. My father had tried to verify my education. Like it was a hoax. Like I was some con artist. Daniel looked down. I read it before he deleted it. That's how I knew about the thesis. The board. All of it. There was a long silence. Then he said, "I think he's scared of you now. Scared because he can't control what you've built. Because you don't need them anymore. And honestly, neither do I." I looked at him, startled. He continued, "They only ever saw what they wanted from me. But you actually did something real." I didn't say anything, just passed him another can of soda. For the first time, we weren't siblings fighting for attention. We were two kids sitting in the wreckage of a toxic legacy, trying to figure out what to build next. And maybe, just maybe, my brother wasn't lost. Maybe he was just late. And late is still right on time. A week passed. No texts from Mom, no calls from Dad. Not even one of those "hope you're well" emojis she usually sends when she wants something. Just silence. It should have bothered me, but it didn't. Because for once, that silence didn't feel like rejection. It felt like freedom. Daniel and I kept talking. Not daily, but enough. He started asking me questions. About education. About purpose. About what it's like to actually love what you do. And I could see it happening. Slowly. His walls were cracking. Then, one evening, I got a message. From my mother. Not a long one. Just this. "Your father found a letter. You should come by. He won't talk about it." I stared at the screen. A letter? What letter? Curiosity wins every time. So the next afternoon, I drove back. Same old house. Same manicured lawn. Same front door that had slammed behind me so many times before. She let me in. Didn't hug me. Didn't make tea. Just led me to the kitchen and handed me a folded piece of paper. Old. Wrinkled. My handwriting. I unfolded it slowly. And when I saw what it was, I nearly dropped it. It was the letter I wrote when I was 17. Right after I got accepted into college. I had taped it to the fridge, once, before it mysteriously vanished. It read, "Dear Mom and Dad, thank you for always believing in me. I know it's not med school, but I want to make a difference in the classroom. I'll make you proud. I promise." I stared at it, speechless. It was full of hope, of love, of a girl who still believed she was enough. "I didn't think you'd notice," my mom said softly. "I kept it, put it in a drawer, then forgot where." But I didn't care where she kept it. I cared what she did after she read it. Because if she had read it, really read it, she would have known. She would have fought for me, defended me, celebrated me. But she didn't. Not then. Not at graduation. Not ever. I looked up at her, and her eyes were already glassy. "I think your father read it last night," she whispered. "He didn't say a word, just sat in the garage until morning." I said nothing. Because what could I say? That it took him over a decade to see me? That silence is not the same thing as regret? Then she asked something unexpected. "Do you still want to make a difference?" I met her eyes, steady, quiet, and said, "I already have." She didn't cry, but she did look away. And for my mother, that was close enough. I left the letter on the table. Not to be thrown away again, but as proof of who I was, of who I still am. I walked out the door, the same door that once felt like exile. Now? For Perilista. It felt like a chapter closing. And ahead of me? A new one, blank and waiting. 2 weeks after graduation, I got a call from Daniel. He sounded breathless. I need you to come over. Like, now. Why? I asked. He hesitated. Dad's talking about selling the house, but not before making you an offer first. That made me pause. It wasn't like him. My father never offered me anything. He handed down expectations, delivered judgments, but offers? Tough fine. Those were reserved for golden children. Still, I went. Mostly because I wanted to know what kind of stunt he was pulling this time. I walked into the living room. Same leather couch, same chandelier, same tense air. He was sitting at the head of the dining table like a general. My mother beside him, eyes tired. Daniel leaning on the doorframe, arms crossed. My father cleared his throat. I've been reviewing the finances. I raised an eyebrow. He hated admitting problems. Go on, I said. He didn't look at me when he continued. The house isn't sustainable anymore. Taxes, repairs, upkeep. It's too much. Your mother and I are thinking of downsizing. Okay, I said slowly. I don't see how that involves me. He shifted in his seat. Uncomfortable. Your brother says you're doing well, that you have influence. Maybe you'd want to invest in this place. Buy it. Keep it in the family. I almost laughed. They'd spent years treating me like a stranger, and now I was family again because the pipes were old and the taxes high. What's the price? I asked, just to hear it. He slid a folder across the table. Inside, evaluation, $860,000. It was laughable. The roof leaked, the foundation had cracks. The paint was peeling on the porch. You want me to buy this house? I said slowly. He nodded. And not just buy it and let us stay. We'd pay a small monthly contribution. Think of it as returning the favor for raising you. My mother flinched. Daniel blinked hard. But I said nothing. Just closed the folder. Stood up. If you needed help, you could have asked, I said. But instead, you packaged guilt as gratitude and tried to sell me my own childhood. My father's jaw tightened. We made sacrifices for you. I made sacrifices because of you, I replied. And the difference is, I never asked you to pay me back. He slammed a hand on the table. You're being ungrateful. No, I said, voice calm. I'm being honest, and for once I think that's enough. I turned to leave. Daniel stopped me at the door. Wait, he said. If you walk out now, he'll say you turned your back on them. I looked him in the eyes. He turned his back the day he called me a disgrace into a microphone. Daniel didn't argue, he just nodded. And I walked out, leaving the past exactly where it belonged, on the table, unsold. After that meeting at the table, I thought that would be the end of it. No more pitches. No more veiled guilt trips. But narcissists don't surrender. They strategize. 3 days later, I got an email. Not from my parents. From a lawyer. Subject line, proposal for family home transition. Attached, a preliminary contract. They were actually trying to formalize it. $860,000 purchase. Lifetime residency clause for my parents. And this, in lieu of repayment, this agreement acknowledges past parental support as sufficient compensation. I sat there, blinking. They wanted me to buy the house, let them live in it, and also legally thank them for it. They wanted a signature. My silence wasn't enough. They needed control back. So I opened a folder I hadn't touched in years, my receipts folder. Not metaphorically. Literally. Every dollar. Every emergency. Every Claire can't pay rent again moment. Every gas bill I covered. Every mom needs a new fridge request. I had scanned them all, saved every message, labeled each file. Over $23,000. From the moment I got my first full-time job until 6 months before graduation. Not even including the monthly transfers I'd quietly made when Dad's consulting dried up. And then, I opened my email, wrote back to the lawyer, attached my own PDF. Subject line, counter record, financial contributions from Aaron Blake, 2016 to 2024. In the body, I wrote, please find attached a complete itemized history of financial support provided by me to my parents over the last 8 years. Should this discussion continue toward formal negotiation, I will be requesting a full audit and notarized contract outlining repayment terms and inheritance conditions. Kindly advise your client that guilt is not enforceable by law. I hit send and sat back, hands shaking. Not from fear, from clarity. An hour later, the lawyer responded, short, blunt. I'll speak to them. That night, Daniel texted me. You sent them the receipts? I replied. They sent me a contract first. There was a long pause. Then, I'm proud of you. And for the first time, that phrase didn't feel hollow. It didn't come with a but. It didn't have an expiration date. I didn't hear from my parents for a week. Then 2. No calls, no emails, just silence. Until one afternoon, Daniel called. His voice was low. They've decided to sell the house. They're moving out by August. I said nothing, not because I didn't care, but because I had already mourned that house years ago. It wasn't a home, it was a shrine to appearances. And I'd finally stopped praying at its altar. They want to know if you'll come help pack, Daniel added. I smiled. No, I said gently. Tell them this time, they'll have to carry their own boxes. August came quietly. No drama, no last-minute pleas. Just a text from Daniel. They're officially moved out. I stared at the message like it was the final page of a book I never liked, a story I was written into without consent, but had finally stopped letting them edit. I didn't visit the house, didn't ask where they went, didn't wonder if they were okay, because they'd been okay when I wasn't. That weekend, I got a surprise invitation. The dean. Yes, that dean emailed me. She was hosting a panel at the university. Topic: Redefining Resilience in Modern Education. She asked me to speak, not as a student, as a professional. You changed the way some of us think, she wrote. We'd like others to hear how. I read the email 3 times. Then sat down and wrote back. Yes, I'll be there. The day of the event, I wore a navy pantsuit. No gown, no cap, just me, sharp, ready. When I stepped on stage, the audience looked familiar. Professors, grad students, administrators, and Daniel. He sat in the second row, arms crossed, eyes locked on me. He gave a small nod when our eyes met, the kind that said, "You belong here." I walked up to the mic and started. My name is Aaron Blake, I said, and I used to believe resilience was about surviving. Now I know it's about choosing what no longer deserves to survive with you. I talked about students who fall through the cracks, about education systems that reward silence over honesty, about the emotional tax of being underestimated, and how rebuilding yourself often starts with walking away from what broke you. People nodded, took notes, applauded, but it wasn't the applause that stuck with me. It was what happened after. An older woman approached, said she was a visiting professor from another state. She pulled me aside and said, "My daughter dropped out last year, said no one saw her, no one listened, but I'm going to send her your speech." I smiled. For her daughter, and for every kid who'd been told they weren't enough by people who couldn't see beyond a resume. Later, Daniel and I grabbed coffee. He didn't say much, just sipped his drink. Then finally, they watched the live stream. I raised an eyebrow. Who? Our parents, I blinked. Why? He shrugged. Curiosity. Maybe guilt. Maybe both. And? He paused. Dad didn't say a word, but Mom cried. I didn't ask why. I didn't need to. I already knew. Because sometimes it takes watching the child you dismissed stand tall on a stage you never imagined for them to realize what your love should have looked like. Not performance, not perfection, but presence. Daniel looked at me. You were incredible up there. I smiled softly. You think they'll reach out? He hesitated. Maybe, then added, "But if they don't, it's their loss now, not yours." He was right. For the first time in my life. The story wasn't about earning their pride. It was about owning my power. A month later, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a voicemail. An actual letter. Envelope. Stamp. Careful, cursive handwriting. It was from my father. I stared at it for days. Didn't open it. Left it on the table beside my fruit bowl, like a dare. It wasn't fear. It was principle. Some words are too late to matter. But eventually, I did open it. Curiosity is louder than memory. Inside was a short note. Neat. Terse. Almost sterile. "Aaron, I watched the panel. You spoke well. I don't always understand your choices. But I can see you've made something of yourself. That takes strength. I suppose I never knew how to say I was proud. Or maybe I just didn't think I needed to. Either way, I'm saying it now. Dad." No apology, no ownership. Just 7 lines of something that was almost an attempt. I folded the letter, slid it into a drawer, not to cherish it, to keep it, as proof that even silence cracks eventually. But I didn't write back, didn't call, because I didn't need to. You see, when I stood on that stage at Daniel's graduation, in front of the same people who had once called me invisible, and received my master's degree, it wasn't the paper that made it powerful. It was what it represented. The hours. The hunger. The hollowness. The healing. It was every night I stayed up late rewriting lesson plans that would reach the unreachable kids. It was every weekend spent buried in research while family barbecues passed without an invitation. It was every whispered phone call asking for rent money, fridge money, Claire's broken lease money. And it was the moment, standing in heels on a stage lit by truth, when I realized I didn't need their applause to validate my journey, because I wasn't just earning a degree. I was reclaiming every piece of myself they tried to shrink. Daniel visited more often now. He didn't bring gifts, didn't overcompensate, just asked questions, listened. He started working with a nonprofit that built entrepreneurship programs for underserved teens. I offered to mentor a few. He said they'd be lucky. My parents never asked to meet again. Maybe they were waiting for me to reach out. But I didn't. Because this version of me? Hummus. She doesn't chase people who only love her when it's convenient. One afternoon, I walked into my office, sat at my desk, pulled out both of my degrees, framed them side by side. One earned to prove I could. The other earned to prove I should have never had to. Underneath, I taped a quote. A reminder. The shame was never mine. It was theirs, for not seeing me sooner. Now, when people ask me about my family, I just smile and say, I gave them a front row seat, and they chose to look away. But the dean didn't, the panel didn't, the students didn't, and I didn't. I saw myself, fully, finally. And that second degree? Rye. It wasn't in curriculum design. It was in self-worth. What do you think about Erin's decision? Was she too harsh? Or was this the only way to truly protect herself? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories about family.